So as you can see, guys, we are in a frozen lake here, in the boat on the ice. So it's basically today just going to be a fishing video. I'm just going to go out. This is one of the last times of the year. As you can see, our lakes are freezing up and water temp is obviously really cold. You're looking at about 39 to 41, 42 degrees. And you know, we're going to give it a shot. You know, fish are going to be still biting. I have confidence in that. A couple baits we're going to be using today, jerk bait and some sort of lipless crankbait is going to be really strong today, I feel. They've been biting it pretty good out here last couple times I've been out here. But in the meantime, we're going to make our way through this ice out to the main lake where I've been catching them, and hopefully we can get through this stuff without damaging anything. There he is, first one of the day. Caught him on the old trap. This is a Jackal Disc Knocker 70. It's a 5/8 ounce bait. Catching him on this flat, just scattered milfoil, 3 to 4 foot of water. Oh man, got the front hook on him there. Snagged him a little bit from behind. Still a good fish, man. 41-degree water temps. Catching him on a trap. Just goes to show that, you know, even though the water is really cold, you can still catch these fish on moving baits. You know, they're going to be a little bit more active than what you think this time of year. You know, in the fall, you know, it's not all about small and slow moving. You can still catch them on those moving baits, moving a little bit faster. You know, one thing I like to do when using these rattle traps, I like to have a little bit longer rod. I throw this on a 7.3 medium heavy action, and you know, this rod is really perfect for this kind of fishing. You know, for these lipless crankbaits, I can get a long cast with it. And what I like to do is, especially fishing in shallower water like this, you know, it's only about 3 foot deep out here right now. And what I do is I throw that bait out there, I let it sink all the way to the bottom. We're just dealing with scattered grass here, and with that longer rod, that 7.3, I got one. Oh. I can keep a high rod tip when fishing for these fish, and that allows me to keep this trap over the top of this grass, and it allows me to catch these fish. Just like that. That's how you want them to eat it right there. Got two hooks in the nose there. They're not going anywhere. Nice fish. But yeah, that's what I like to do. I like to keep, you know, have a little bit longer rod. Like I said, this is a 7.3 medium heavy action. I like to use, I'm using my PC Fun Alloy M. Like to keep that in kind of a mid-range gear ratio for this time of year. This is a 7.5 to 1 gear ratio, and I can get really long casts with this particular setup. And like I said, I just like to keep that high rod tip, keep that bait over the grass. That way I can slow this bait down too a little bit. And I'm just cranking it through the grass. I'm feeling just, you know, you feel a little bit of grass on there, you just pop it free. You know, just kind of feathering it through those weeds. Boy, he hit it hard. Not a bad one either. It's a pretty good average size fish here today. A lot of these fish lately have been getting it right in the snoot like that. You know, I got 2 hooks in them, one on either side. That tells me that this is the right bait at the right time. So this is what the bait looks like right there. just a disc knocker from Jackal in a shad pattern, and I think the bait fish are right now out here are about that same size and color. But I'll tell you guys the secret to using this bait is, in all lipless crankbait baits for that matter, but when you're fishing this bait, you know, you hear a lot of guys saying, oh, you got to rip it out of the grass, rip it out of the grass, and that's when you're going to get the majority of your bites. And that's true to a certain extent. But what I like to do with this is crank it through the grass. You know, let the line and the rod do the work as far as ripping it out of the grass. You know, I make those long casts, start reeling, get it hung up in the grass. I just keep reeling, you know, instead of taking my rod and jerking it out. You know, I feel that if those fish go after it, they're gonna miss it. You know, you're just gonna jerk it away from them. But especially when fishing grass, use fluorocarbon. Don't use a braid. You know, a lot of guys say use a braid with a crankbait and it'll be a lot easier to rip it out of the grass. It is easier to rip it out of the grass, but you're not going to get nearly as many bites as you would with a fluorocarbon. And the reason being is when you're cranking through that grass, that bait hangs up in the grass, and that fluorocarbon have a little bit of stretch to it, allows that bait to basically, when it breaks free of the grass, it explodes off of those weeds. And, you know, it just springs that bait forward. So I find that I get way more bites just cranking it through that grass, you know, feeling it when I hang up, keep reeling. As soon as that bait comes free, it leaps forward, and that's when you're going to get your bites. Little guy. Ooh, yeah. In here, buddy. Oh, barely hooked. Another good one on the trap. That one's barely hooked, but he still got the front. Get another one. They're in here. When you're using these traps, making them run right is kind of a challenge. You know, you gotta make sure your line ain't wrapped around your hooks, and make sure you don't have any weeds on your bait. You know, using a good rod with this bait is critical, so you can feel that vibration in the bait. If you can't feel it, if your bait's not moving correctly, you're not going to catch any fish. So there he is. Come on, buddy. Ooh, he's a fighter. Ooh, it's a good one. It is a good one. Come on, buddy. Oh boy, yeah, boy. Look at that one. That's a good 3.5 pounder. You know, another thing I like to do is I like to keep my live on, my Lowrance active target. And the reason I do that is basically, even though I don't use it for tracking my bait at all, I use it in the shallower water. There's not a whole ton of weeds out here right now, so I kind of scan around and look for the good weed clumps. Also to just see what kind of bait there is in the area. You know, if there's a lot of bluegills or bait fish in the area, I know that's where I gotta be. Another tip too, you know, when you're fishing this time of year, you know, a lot of these fish are gonna get in the same little areas. So whenever you catch a fish, power pole down and see what else is in the area. So make sure you fan cast it out. Make sure that you've caught all the fish that are there before you move on, because chances are, you know, very rarely this time of year do you catch one fish in a spot without there being more there. So we switched it up a little bit. I've been catching fish in this one spot. Been pretty active, and they started to slow down a little bit, so I tied a jerkbait on, and we got one. It didn't take long, about 2 casts. And a lot of times, you know, a jerkbait's going to get bit really easily this time of year, especially in the really cold water. And, you know, when you start to get not as many bites on that moving stuff, you know, I like to switch over to a jerkbait. A lot of times, you know, when the fishing starts to slow down a little bit, you can tie in that bait and you're going to get, you know, a lot more of those more inactive fish that are in the same group. There's another one. One cast later. That's a good one. Feels a little bit bigger on this little bit lighter rod. Yeah, boy. That's a good one right there. Got a couple hooks in them there. That's a dandy right there. But so when fishing a jerkbait, I like to use it on a little bit lighter action rod. I also like it to be a little bit, you know, a lot softer as well. You know, shorter. This is a 6/8 medium action, and with that medium power, you know, it really allows me to, you know, this is a kind of a small treble hook bait, and, you know, allows me to keep those fish pinned a lot easier. You know, having the shorter rod also, you know, it really helps you control that bait. A lot of times what I like to do with this bait is I'll throw it out too, and I'll kind of reel it down, get it down to a certain depth that I like to fish it in. Most of these out now are suspending models, so, you know, once you got it down to a certain depth, it's just going to sit there. This one runs about, you know, this is a Vision 110 from Mega Bass. It's going to run about, you know, 4 or 5 feet generally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw that bait out there, reel it down just a little bit to get that bait to dig a little bit. Now I got it down to, you know, kind of the depth that I want to fish it in, and I'm just kind of jerk pause. You know, I'm going to pause that bait for a pretty long period of time, and there he is right there. A lot of times this time of year, you know, they're going to get it while it's sitting there. Got a nice group of fish out there fired up. They're pretty good ones too today. I catch a lot of like 2.5 pounders. He barely hooked. There we go. Still a decent fish though. But, you know, pause is everything to this bait. You know, jerk pause is what I like to do a lot of times. Jerk pause, let it sit, and a lot of times that's when you're going to get your bite. You know, a lot of times too, you know, if you're not getting bit on this bait as well, you know, you really got to practice and change up your cadence with it. You know, jerk pause is just how I'm catching them right now. You know, sometimes I'll just go one jerk and let it sit. One jerk, let it sit. Usually my jerks though, even in really cold water, are going to be pretty aggressive. You know, I want to move that bait still. I don't want it to, you know, sit in one spot too long, unless you know there's fish there. So we're gonna wrap it up here today. Sun's starting to go down. It's getting a little cold out here. I gotta break some ice to get back as well. So it's been a fun day. Caught a lot of fish. You know, the trap was by far the king out here. Caught a lot of fish on that today. Caught a fair amount on a jerkbait as well. So, you know, anytime you can get out this time of year and fish, there's, you know, ice on the shorelines and stuff, and just a blessing to get out here and you know, they're still biting. So no matter how cold it is, fish will still bite. So hope you guys learned something today, and we'll see you next time.